If you are interested in starting your own podcast, we use Buzzsprout because it is simple and easy to use. Buzzsprout can get your show listed on every major platform while giving you the resources for a great podcast website, audio players that can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening to your podcast, and tools to promote your episodes. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and that is why over 100,000 podcasters are already subscribed to Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Following the link in our episode descriptions lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you. So in return, you will receive a $20 Amazon gift card from Buzzsprout while signing up for a paid plan. Most importantly, every subscription through our link is always appreciated and helps support our show so we can continue delivering the quality content that you guys listen to. That being said, back to the show.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Junkies. I'm Andrew.
And this is Joe.
And this week we're coming at you with Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Relatively lesser known book, perhaps maybe outside of me. I don't know. I've never heard of it, but it is a solid little read. We've got that one for you. It's a nice 4-issue banger. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming con that we're going to be heading to. It's coming up this weekend. This isn't in real time for y'all. We're a little bit out for when you'll be hearing this, but con's coming up. It's been a couple years pretty much, and we're pretty excited to go hit that up, and so we'll kind of let you know what we're looking for, what we think is going to be there, etc. So all that being said, Joe, Superman for All Seasons, you want to start us off?
Like you said, Jeff Loeb's the writer, Tim Sale's the artist, and the book was done in 1998. It's a 4-issue series. Each issue is a different season. So it starts off in spring, hence 4 all seasons. This book is broken up into 4 chapters, each one being a different season of the year. So starting in spring, the narrator is Superman's father. Another thing that's kind of cool between each issue, every issue has its own narrator that's different from the previous issue. So it starts off with Superman's dad. And the story begins with Clark Kent on the family farm, and he's finishing up his last year in high school. And they invite Lana Lang over and her aunt over for dinner. For those that don't know, Lana is Clark's high school sweetheart prior to meeting Lois. Little side note here, I'm not sure if it's consistent across Superman, but in Smallville for sure. Lana was also raised by her aunt because the meteor shower that came down when Clark landed in Smallville killed Lana's parents. And so in Smallville, her aunt raised her. And so I didn't know if that was true for just Superman lore in general, but I thought it was cool that they had Lana Lang's aunt raise her in this series. But anyway, the night doesn't last long because Clark is kind of quiet. We find out his powers continue to grow, and you can sense that his dad is a little scared of him or nervous or something. And it's because they have no idea where he actually came from, which obviously bothers Clark. But his mom has always kept a really good attitude about it. And so does his dad. But his dad's just kind of scared of the uncertainty. Like they don't know what to expect from him. But the next day he goes to get a haircut in town. And the barber actually breaks his scissors on Clark's hair. So in panic, he runs right back home to the farm until his parents notice him outside. Jonathan, which is his dad, goes to talk to him and reassures him that even though they might not understand him, they will always love and support him, which I'm sure lifts his spirits. But it's shortly after that a tornado kind of forms and is headed right through Smallville. Clark goes right downtown and saves the life of one of the business owners down there, and then heads back to the farm when the coast is kind of clear so he can check on his parents. They're both fine, but like Smallville actually too, the very end of the first season in Smallville, a tornado goes right through town, and it kind of brings him one step closer from transitioning from Clark to Superman. That's a little recap of the first issue. I got a little more to say, but what are your thoughts so far, Berger?
So yeah, kind of, you pretty much laid out the plot nicely of what goes on in this. Taking a step back at like what this story is as a whole, I really like it. It wasn't necessarily what I expected heading in. Like I said, I didn't really have much expectations heading into this. I've never really heard of it. I'm glad you kind of found it and introduced it and suggested it for an episode. But this whole book is kind of just like a narrative of like a simple case study of what is Superman and like Clark Kent. Like it's kind of like a reductionist type of, like it's very simple and straightforward. You could kind of tell like a tonal shift in each different season, and how he's feeling, how he's progressing as not only Clark but as Superman. And kind of the differences of his supporting cast, and there's a lot to kind of unpack, even though there's also not a ton necessarily plot wise, I would say, just because it is kind of like I said, a character study almost, just showing like it's just kind of getting to the core of what Superman is and helping pretty much whoever's reading this understand who Superman is in kind of like a roundabout way where he's figuring it out for himself. I do like kind of how it's drawn, like especially Clark, because he looks like he's huge on milk and vitamins in this. I like Pa and Ma's relationship. It was very sweet in like certain points of the story, but like even off rip, you could just tell like Pa's real into Ma and that they're real good parents to Clark. Pa was like, I used to carrying a baby is kind of like carrying a chicken. That's how he figured out how to hold a baby, and that's how he carried Clark.
How wholesome is that?
That's what I'm saying. And and then he's also like, what kind of fool puts a baby in a rocket? But he's like, what's another type of fool to keep that child? And it's just like, Pa's just real as hell. And he's just, he's kind of like one of those kooky, like old guys that you see around town. Like just good, real wholesome dude. Like you wish he was in your family type guy. And I like that they really stuck to their guns and like kept that very simple, very like wholehearted rendition of the Kent family. And then, yeah, I mean, they're doing small town things, going to get shakes, hanging out with Pete Ross and Lana. And I like how he's like, holy shit, I need a haircut, to your point. Like he just remembered and he just like dips over. He starts noticing like he could see through walls and hear everything. And that's when they cut the scissors on his hair and they just like bend. I was like, what the hell? But it was really good to like kind of start us off.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to think of the series because the art is so different than what you see in comic books a lot of the times. I didn't think I would actually enjoy it, but like as you're like flipping through the pages, well, I mean, we use a digital reader, but it was so consistent across the whole book. But I guess back to the plot. At the end of the night, Clark takes Lana up to the farm where it's private and asks her to trust him. As he's holding her hand, they both begin floating. Obviously, she's panicked, but this seems to be like the most confident he's seemed in the story so far yet. As he lands, he tells her that he's had these powers and he really wants to save people with them. He must leave Smallville because it's just not a big enough town, and he wants to venture off into the big city where he can make more of an impact in the world. And instead of being jealous or upset, she gives him a big old smooch for his honesty. And the day after, he watches the sunset with Pa, and they have a nice little dialogue between them, and he heads on over to Metropolis to become the Superman that he's destined to be. But another side note from me, in my honest opinion, one of Clark's biggest weaknesses, other than like kryptonite and magic, obviously, is his inability to trust people confidently. In all the renditions of Superman I've ever seen, like he holds his secret so close to his chest, and he's not even dating Lana at this time. It's just like his friend who, they have a thing for each other, but it's just not working out. Well, it never fully clicked, but he tells her his secret and he does it confidently. And I feel like it just gave the character more confidence than we've seen in the past. And I thought that was a pretty cool thing for him to do. Now that he's in Metropolis, it feels as though the character's aged a little too, because we see him in like a suit. He's working for the Daily Planet. And this is where they kind of introduce like Lois Lane, Jimmy, Mr. White. And the reason I say he feels like he's aged is because there's a part where he asks Lois if she's doing anything after work, and she confidently tells him that she's got dinner plans with Lex, and he shyly accepts it. In that short amount of time, he's already mastered like his clumsy disguise of being Clark Kent. I think one of the reasons why Superman's my favorite character is that his dress up is being a human. Like everybody else puts on costumes to become a superhero, his real identity is Superman, and then he dresses up as Clark Kent as his disguise. And so he can act as like a clumsy reporter during the day and then hone in on his confident side when he's putting on the cape. But to conclude the first issue of this series, we get more narration from Pa about, at the end of the day, maybe they are like most parents in the same sense that they worry about him, if he's eating good, if he's making friends, if he's staying out of harm's way. And it's at that time we see Lex looking out his skyscraper window watching Superman fly by, which is good timing on the narration because Lex looks pissed at even the sight of Superman and saying it's going to be a long, hot summer, which brings us to the next issue.
Yeah, and I also want to say, like, I like that Lex's iteration at this point is where he's just a fat ginger. And instead of like svelte, bald businessman who's like real cunning, he's just like a fat ginger who's like real angry. It's kind of funny because like later on in the story, in this issue, I'm gonna jump ahead a tiny bit, is that Lois is talking with, I think, Jimmy Olsen, and they're like, we tried to do the calculations on Lex Luthor, and if he found $100 bill on the ground, it wouldn't even be worth his time to bend over and pick it up because he makes $150 a second. He's just big balling, and he shouldn't have no problems, but he just sees Superman and he's pissed, dude. He just gets real hot and bothered anytime he sees the dude around. And I mean, before that though, there's a little bit of narration. I believe it's Lois in this issue. She's kind of talking about, kind of in awe that like Superman, to sum it up, that he can do anything that he wants to. Like, he has all the powers in the world. He's pretty much perfect, and he decides to be a hero, something that obviously not many people do. I also like that how she kind of wraps it up with also saying to wear a cape and to not look stupid is somebody interesting, because she's like a no bullshit reporter. She's talking about how she grew up idolizing, was it a dude on horseback or something, I don't recall exactly, but they're like, oh yeah, me and my brother, we liked this and that. And then it's just like, but this, like, I'm a grown woman now, and this Giacomo is wearing a cape and he don't even look stupid. That is somebody interesting. And just another side note, I'm jumping all around because my notes are all scattered in this. I just love that back on the Lex thing is that he hangs out in a giant L. Like the whole
He can
Lex
afford
tower
to.
is just a
so
huge
cool.
L, dude. That's sick. We're gonna get the CBJ Fortress one day.
It's so much different than like Michael Rosenbaum's adaptation of the character, where he's kind of like a rich playboy, like about to take over the world, both like confident and swaggy.
He's kind of
like,
young, young and swaggy.
Yeah, like this Lex is kind of more of like a Donald Trump.
He really is, dude. Kind of, even in the drawing, he kind of looks like him, dude.
He kind of does. And the whole writing is it's very similar. But anyway, yeah, you're right. Lois is the new narrator. And there are some really cool quotes in this too. Like at the very beginning of the issue, they say, "Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see, and everything you write." So I thought that was a cool journalism quote, rather.
Yeah.
Anyways, Superman saves Metropolis from another attack. It's by a submarine, and he brings it to the surface. One of the bad guys gets a hold of Lois and puts a gun to her head. Both Superman and Lex show up at the same time to defuse the situation, and Lex is quick to boast about how he can talk his way out of anything.
He wants to negotiate with terrorists, dude.
Yeah, he does.
Superman's like, hell no, dude. We don't negotiate with terrorists.
Right. Superman uses his speed to grab the gun and crumple it up. And so Lois digs her heels into the guy and karate chops his neck, which is cool. And then both Superman and Lex are competing again because they're both impressed with her courage. And Lex is like, "Hey, I'll get a limo for you. I'll take you back to the Daily Planet. Like, everything's going to be okay." But she says, "I want Superman to take me back." And so I thought that was cool too. That really put a wedge between Lex and Superman ever getting along, in my opinion. That's where it officially started. But good on Lois for instigating that shit.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one time I'll commend it, I guess. It's just cock blocking, dude. Lex got turned down, dude.
All right.
"Come here, baby. I can give you anything you want." And she's like, I like Superman instead. And I like how Superman, too, how, like you said, where, he kind of lacks confidence. He's, usually a bumbling fool and whatnot. I like how he'll talk to Lex however he wants, dude. It's like,
yeah, because he's confident as Superman, but exactly, 100%.
But regardless, like, he won't talk to anybody like that. Like, even like some like low rent like criminals, like he'll still be like polite or kind of like dunk on him a little bit. But with like Lex, he's like testy, dude. It's like kind of like what would happen if like you cut someone off and there was like road rage going on, but then you got face to face. Like, that's how he talks to Lex. He's like, "You won't be doing anything like that again." And then Lois, like, that kind of like horns her up though. She's like, as a gal and a reporter, she's like, you can't talk to Lex like that. He's like, "I talk to him however I want." I was like, that's
right, he's
cool,
from the
dude.
farm, dude. He'll fucking wrestle. wrestle him.
Yeah, dude, he'll go 3 rounds bare knuckle boxing in a barn somewhere, dude. He ain't worried about it.
Yeah, no. The only thing that I didn't think was very justified in this story is how much they hate each other off rip. Like in every other rendition, either Superman does something that pisses Lex off or vice versa. He just kind of flew into town and they don't like each other.
Yeah, it's kind of like Peter Griffin and that giant chicken. It's like they just make eye contact and it's just all out, dude.
I don't know, but you kind of see why their relationship develops into being very poor, but like they just don't even like each other off rip. And Superman likes everybody, to your point. So, anyways, to conclude this issue, Perry sends Clark and Jimmy out after midnight for a story about Lex trying to build something, and conveniently the building's on fire, and Lex sends in some drones to go put out the fire so he can take the credit from Superman. Because Superman feels spited by Lex, he pushes the drones out of the way and saves the last lady in the building and then puts out the fire, which also allows for like a great story for Clark to write later. But Lex is no dummy. So he finds the lady he rescued and manipulates her passion for Superman into something really evil. We're not exactly sure what yet at this point, but that's kind of the cliffhanger of the issue, which leads us into fall.
Yeah, and before we get into fall, I forgot one other like little quote there when it comes to Superman just kind of shit talking Lex. I don't recall what exactly was said to him, but it was about Lex. I'm pretty sure it was Jimmy. And you know, he's like, "How could you do this with Lex?" Blah 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 blah. And he's like, "Look, dude, Lex puts his pants on like everybody else." And I thought that
Yeah,
was
he
hilarious.
did say that.
I'm gonna start using that, dude. Like, you think you're hot shit, dude? We put on our pants the same. It's
Yeah. They had so many like wise quotes that I haven't heard before. Just some old timey stuff.
Too. This book felt real old timey. Like, even though like the setting wasn't necessarily like specified as far as time period, like Smallville felt like the 50s. Town square, we have a general store, line up our milkshakes, like let's get out of here type deal. But yeah, past that, I'm gonna try and be coherent here. Moving into fall, Luther, you know, he's getting arrested, but you know, Luther's got money, so he gets out like promptly, obviously, but he loves his city and he's jealous that Superman is the one that's taking it from him. So that's like a lot of where we see the rift.
He's the narrator this time around too.
Yeah, so it's kind of told through his lens. Like we just said, he's jealous that Superman's trying to take his city from him. But he doesn't want to feel pity from himself or anybody else, because Lex Luthor believes that self-pity is for lesser men and that no one will ever pity Lex Luthor, which I respect the hell out of, dude. You know, Lex Luthor ain't the good guy, but I agree with that. And kind of a lot of Lex Luthor trying to, you know, intimidate, pull the strings, kind of doing his typical maniacal bullshit, you know, kind of just to make Superman look bad, doesn't care who's affected, for how long or whatever, dude. He's just by any means, let's, you know, just dunk on Superman. And Superman kind of, you know, gets the gist of it, like things aren't so great. And, you know, he goes and visits him and he's kind of just staring down Lex, and he's just out there and he's like, "You want a drink?" But he's like, "Oh wait, you're probably not into all that, aren't you?" And it's just like, I just love the like grandiose, like Lex is clearly like, they both know that he's a weasel and he's doing something right now, but he don't have any proof to like, you know, hammer him down for it. So he can't do anything. His hands are tied. But you know, Lex is still there just kind of trying to like rub one in your face, just like, "Yeah, dude, you can't even have a drink." But he's like, "I know why you're here." And he's like, "We both know what's going on." But he says Lex is forever, and that's cool. It's just Lex has such like a ego driven personality, but he's got so much like machismo and confidence. I like that they actually had a Superman with that level of confidence to kind of butt heads with him.
The duality there is incredible. Right afterwards too, after they're done kind of like going mano-a-mano, Lex slides right back into his place and asks this scientist about how his experiment's going. And we see the lady that Superman saved tied to a chair with her eyelids forced open like in Clockwork Orange. Like Lex is always up to some squirrely shit.
Yeah, dude. Miss Vaughn, by the way, I had to look and take note of her name once I saw that she was getting focused on a lot more. Yeah, he'll do anything. Like, he straight up used a woman that was saved, that was almost not saved due to his own negligence of trying to dunk on Superman. And he still uses this poor woman to meet his ends again, which is crazy. So, before we get to a little bit of things popping off, we're kind of back in the Daily Planet. Clark's, just hanging out in the office. He's getting kind of pissed. Lois is going through his shit, just snooping. And
Right.
she's
She
just
says
like,
she sees something that says LL on it.
and she's like, that's for Lois Lane. And he just stands there with like this look on his face and he goes, Lana Lang. And it's just like, whoa. Because I mean, a lot of times, at least from what the media I've taken in, he almost forgets or, leaves Lana Lang in the past and he becomes like a Lois Lane truther. But in this, he's riding both sides of the fence. He's kind of just like, which one's going to cave first? And but in this, like, it kind of makes it clear, he asked her out earlier in the book, like, as you mentioned, but, at this point, he's still like, nah, I'm in my feels for Lana, dude. And he's just like, get out of here. But, in the midst of that, while she's snooping through his shit, the whole office and city gets poisoned. And, everyone's dropping like flies, dude. He goes outside, the whole city's dropping too. That's when we kind of see Lex. He's doing all this to make sure that there's like no one to root for Superman, no one to save, no one to, give him like the pop that he wants, that Lex feels like he deserves. And he wants to frame him because of like his alien origin too. Like Lex, like, there's no really roundabout way, or, we don't see how he knows that he's alien other than the powers, obviously. But, he just like is like convinced. He's like, yeah, he's like, we're gonna, use that as something here too. But yeah, Luthor trots out Miss Vaughn. Her new name is Toxin, and she will be referred to as such. And Lex makes it so Superman can't go and just, administer the antidote on his own. He has to use Miss Vaughn, which in turn is pretty much Lex's pawn in this. So it, at the end, like Lex is still somewhat solving the issue that he created. And Superman begrudgingly agrees to it because he says, look, I don't really care who's getting framed in all this pretty much. He's just like, I just want to fix the problem and deal with it from there.
Right. They're the only two that are not impacted by the chemical warfare. And Lex tells him that his alien nature probably brought the virus. And so Superman's pissed. And he's just like, who's to say you're not doing this to frame me? However, he keeps his cool. And instead of breaking through like Lex's like window and just kicking his ass, he asks Lex for his help to make sure that the city's safe. So Lex pings in Toxin and the lady that he was experimenting on. And she has this huge gun full of toxins that she's able to spray into the clouds to cure everyone. And so Lex really says like, hey, you need to bring her up there so she can spray the cloud so that the whole city gets the remedy. So Superman seems very appreciative that he's finally helping him instead of hindering him, and brings her to the clouds so that she can do her thing. But after spraying the clouds, everyone starts waking up, which is good. But, well, I guess side note here, I thought that whatever toxin she had in her gun would make the situation worse, but I was wrong. It was an actual cure, so everyone does wake up. However, as soon as they land, Toxin begins to pass away right in Superman's arms, and Lex knew it the whole time. And so Clark's in his feelings and feels like he has to go back to the farm with his parents and give up being Superman because this lady just died, and he could have just took her gun and sprayed the clouds himself, but Lex talked him into bringing her up with him. So it was because she was exposed to the toxins so thoroughly by being that high elevated that he kills somebody in the process. And so it's just like, how can you be confident about being Superman when you killed this lady that Lex set you up for? So that's kind of how the issue concludes, unless you got anything else to add on.
No, just a little one-liner on that. That was very eloquently put. But I wanted to just, take it back to Lex being crass and a dickhead. And he says, go back where you come from. And it's just like, that's where Lex's mindset is after this whole fucking fiasco. It's just like, he just wants to get the digs in where he can. And it's just like, yeah, dude, you suck. He's like, go back where you came from. And Superman puts his tail between his legs and goes back to Smallville. He's just like, fuck it, dude. PTO. Planet don't need me for now. I'm going to go.
He really put in that town. PTO too. Not only does he give up being Superman, but he gives up being Clark Kent too.
He says, I've been saving this dude.
He's like, I ain't going back to work ever again. Poor guy.
But that takes us to Winter, bro. And so Winter takes us back to Lana.
She's the new narrator and the last narrator too.
Yeah, and more or less she's talking about, how they were like the best of friends growing up. They had that unspoken kind of romance together, but they never really actualized anything. And, the fact that she felt the trust that Clark could tell her his secret and, show him that he could fly. She planned on, like that same night, she felt the confidence in him and everything. She thought that he was going to get down and propose to her, be high school sweethearts, get married. She says she wanted all of them kids because they were both orphans and that they only had each other growing up. So they wanted to have a big family. And then she's like, and then one night you just find out that he can pretty much fly. And then everything that she thought she wanted just got taken out from underneath her. And so she moved, started traveling around the world doing this and that. She says, my whole future kind of went up in smoke when he didn't impregnate me and started flying. And then, how is she supposed to know that?
It threw me off guard, the beginning of this issue, because at the very end of the first issue, she seemed like happy that Clark was able to tell her that. And then she leaves as soon as Clark does. She doesn't hang out in Smallville. Like, she's gone for 4 years traveling, like you said. She was actually pissed. She was just like, I really wanted a family with him. I was hoping he would say everything other than that. And I didn't really understand that perspective. And that's probably why we can focus on Lois later down the road, because that bridge kind of got burnt when he didn't make anything of their situation. So I thought that was pretty cool that we got her perspective on it now, because at the end of the first issue, it seemed like they were both like in agreement, like, hey, I'll come back to you when I get everything settled. But because he's still thinking about her, but she's kind of moved on. But in this issue, they kind of are able to meet again and kind of hash some of that stuff out, like you were saying.
Yeah, and I just like the fact that neither of them said a damn word to Pete Ross, and they just dipped.
Real friends.
For real, dude. Like, literally, he flies and like doesn't tell Pete Ross shit that he's Superman. She gets all bummed she can't have Clark's kids, and she goes on the other side of the planet. And what the fuck's Pete Ross doing? He says, line up them milkshakes, boys. And
doing keg stands for milkshakes.
Getting chocolate wasted every other night in the town square, dude. He don't know what to do. He's
brings
a mess.
It up to him too. He's just like, it kind of hurt that none of y'all kept me in the loop, and they're like, my bad.
Sucks to suck, I guess.
Well, yeah, they're like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Oh, you drink coffee now? No more milkshakes. Good for you, Pete. That's growth.
Oh, poor Pete. Born in Smallville, gonna die in Smallville.
Damn. But
some people just stay the same, huh? That's Pete.
I never change. To quote Jay-Z.
That's Pete every day. Oh no. But back to the story. Lois is snooping around Clark's desk while he's on PTO. What Lex did to him was really messed up. And when Lois finally connects some dots in her head, she's starting to flirt with the idea that Clark is Superman. But while hanging out in Smallville, Clark and Lana find one another and catch up, like I was saying. Lana and Clark's family basically reassure him that even though he is a Superman, it's hard to predict your limitations and it's hard to adjust to them. All that stuff will come with time. So once he spends enough time with his family and his close ones, Clark's finally able to get that confidence back and put the costume back on and go back to work, so to speak.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like family time here. A lot of Soups catching up with, Clark catching up with Lana, hanging out with his parents, having dinner and doing a great time. The typical ma and pa, like, oh wow, hasn't Lana turned into such a great girl? Kind of like, yeah, we got to get Clark a woman. And then Clark ain't got time for women. He's only got time for justice. But they're hanging out. Things are great. And then the officer, whose name I forget, rolls up and he's like, yo, dog, shit's flooding in town. And Pa's like, man. He's like, we were young last time we had to deal with a flood. But, Clark's there helping everyone pack up. They got to get to high ground, go to the church. There's cots there just to go, wait till it's over. Lana's looking out the window and she's like, it's got to be a bit easier if you have a son who can bend the will of a river. And she doesn't really realize that she says that out loud, or mom and pa are like, wait, what? And, that's when it shows that she spills the beans that she knows Clark's secret. And, mom and pa don't really seem to care. They're like, well, she's trustworthy. She's a good girl. Like, at least it's her, not somebody else, I guess. But, they're just kind of surprised that, he shared that with someone. They kind of reconcile their differences because, mom and pa instill their wisdom in Lana and Clark pretty much simultaneously, but separately. And, they kind of give a little smooch while Superman tries to go and save the day back in Smallville. So everything's pretty much flooded. Ma, pa, the dog, and Lana are driving across the little bridge over the river. And Ma's like, the river's too high. And sure as shit, pa's like, nah, it's fine. Let's go over it slowly. And so he's like creeping
it's like,
over,
I'll put it in 4-wheel drive. All right.
He's just idling over, just coasting. And, his door flops open, the bridge collapses, and, he and the dog just fall into the river. And Superman comes back, scoops up the truck. He's got Lana and Ma. He's like, Ma's trying to tell him, he's like, Clark, your dad. And he's like, don't worry about it. And it's like, I don't even think he understood at that point. Like, pa's down in the river still. But he looks and he sees a little hand with a wedding ring just, trying to hold on to a log in the river. And he scoops down, picks him up. Everyone's like, oh shit, pa died. And he gets back down and pa just coughs up a bunch of water. And he's like, can you put me down now? And I'm just like, hell yeah, dude. And saves the day. And he's like, but Ma, where's the dog? Ma's like, Clark, the dog's gone. And he's like, gone? And he turns over and the dog's standing on a rock in the middle of the river. And he goes and starts licking his face. And, it's a real wholesome moment. Lana and everyone's like, damn. She's like, I've always been trying to figure out what it means, like, now that he's like Superman and he can do all this stuff. But really all I needed to do was understand that he is Clark first and foremost. And it's just like, that was like a very wholesome, good way to like put a bow on the story pretty much. Like, Clark's a real ass dude. Pretty much to put a bow on it, he goes back, heads back to Metropolis as he should, to go back with his confidence to go back and save as many people as he can.
He saves everybody and rescues everybody as he always does. And it's time for him to go back to the city. We see him flying high. And there's no big fight with Luthor at the end, like I was expecting,
I thought there would be too. The way it opened, because it's got Lex and his like little like drones on defense in the city. But all that happens is Superman comes back.
Yeah, he's just flying high. We don't know if he's going to stay with Lana, if he's going to, just commit to being in Metropolis. The only thing we do know is that he's confident enough to keep up the good work and continue to inspire hope. And that's how he gets back at Lex, so to speak. And that's how they conclude the series. After like a heartwarming trip to the farm to get his mind right with the people that he loves, I thought for how underwhelming the conclusion was, or it felt, it was actually such a powerful message and so true to the origins of the character. And so it was just like, because it was so self-contained, it was such a great story. I have a question for you after we go over our ratings, but I thought it was a great Superman story for anybody to read. Before I give my rating, any last thoughts?
No, let's just get into ratings, dog.
All right, 9 out of 10. Iconic. Love the tornado scene at the beginning, how quick they were able to recap his origins without making the whole story about that. They were quick transition from him being a high schooler to Metropolis, and the writing for the story was classy and spot on for Superman. And frankly, the whole cast did a great job writing his parents, Lois, Lex, everybody. It kind of reminded me of the first Christopher Reeve movie, and the way that they portrayed Lex Luthor in that too. I love the story is being told through the people surrounding Clark, as the story reflects his journey of becoming Superman. So I thought it was really smart how each issue had a different narrator and it was a different season. The art wasn't what drew me in, but I thought it would be off, but kind of like that Spider-Verse movie, because I didn't think I would like the Spider-Verse movie because of the art. It really grew on me as the story went on. And they did a great job with the interior work. They also did a great job of making it warm as opposed to like gloomy, like Zack Snyder's Superman felt. Granted, that's a movie and this is a comic book. I was just very appreciative that this creative team really honored the frameworks of the character and made it like a fun and easy read for people wanting a classic Superman story. So here was the question that I was going to ask you. Did you like it better than Alan Moore's Superman story?
That's a good question. Thinking back, probably. I really did like the Alan Moore stuff, but I'm gonna tell you my rating. It's an 8 out of 10. I don't know what I rated the Alan Moore stuff. I have a hard time, I guess, keeping track of all the ratings now. We've done enough of them. But that being said, this didn't blow me away. To a point, I would say it was anticlimactic, which I feel like is like the word as far as like the actual plot. But what I really liked is, I bring this up every time we read a story, and I really feel this way, like the character work. All of the voices for these characters fit. And that's no easy task. I mean, we've read a number of Superman books, stories, ongoings. We've tried our hand at Superman. Not everybody can like nail the tone of voice or the perspective of these characters, especially all of the supporting cast. Pete had a voice, when he was there. It's like Lana made sense. I really liked Clark. It's kind of like the more simple, wholesome, not full on Silver Age, but just about there, like a grounded Silver Age story, like in terms of tone, but not like, he's not wearing like a Aztec headdress and, pointing Batman to go walk on coals or nothing. But, it's like a good, wholesome feeling book. And, that's always what I've liked when I've come to read Superman. I don't need anything that's like real cold and callous, where he's just punching up on aliens and stuff like that. I like him just, patrolling the city. I kind of like too that it's hard to write a character that has little to no weaknesses and actually show him losing at some point. So I like that. While it wasn't like he never lost physically, because he really can't. I like that, really just bumping down his confidence. That's not something you see too much anymore, because usually everyone sees like Superman as bulletproof. But here he's just as human as the rest of us as far as he's feeling, dude. He has self-doubt, he has regret, and he doesn't know what to do necessarily, just like anybody. But I really liked it, especially if you just are a fan of the character, or if you're new to books, if you want to get a feel for what Superman was or would or should be. I'd say, read this, because it's not going to be like action packed or nothing, but it's going to be impactful. So, I mean, I'll give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's no worse than that. I mean, you can argue if it's a little better, but ultimately it's a 4-issue kind of character study more than anything to me. So I feel like an 8 out of 10, it's like a B plus. So it was a good read. But I mean, you're our resident Superman guy here, so I expect it to, hit home with you a little bit more.
Hit home.
I mean, you're from a small town. You've lived there for the longest time now. So, I mean, there's always been an allegory for you there.
I've always identified with the character, whether I actually relate to him or not. But I thought, comparing it to like Moore's, although he was so technically sound, this story, and like he did a great job of incorporating like the DC universe. This story was so self-contained and like confined to Superman's story. And I just thought they knocked that portion of it out of the park. Probably my second favorite Superman comic.
Second to All-Star?
Second to All-Star.
I can see that. I mean, it's just...
Even though it's 4 issues, like if you were trying to get into comics, a little 4 issues, something like this, that would be the way to do it. Well, maybe you have to appreciate the character to like appreciate like all all the references they've made to his origins. But anyway, really great story and easy to follow. So that's my take on it.
Word. And with that, I'm all set on that as well. So you know what? We, highlighted it at the top. We've got con coming up. We do our stories, pretty much weekly, unless we're doing a topic. But first and foremost, we are comic book collectors, not flippers or speckers or nothing like that. We just collect good books. So with that, Comic-Con season is back. Typically it's in May in our neck of the woods, because we're in southeast to south central Michigan. And, we're just hanging out waiting for cons to come back. Coco's been, pushing that away. Supposed to go to a Traverse City Cherry Con right before we started the pod. Didn't really work out that way. Haven't been to the Motor City Comic Con 2 years now. So it's go time. We've been saving all of our loonies, our shekels, whatever currency you use. And we're looking to pick up one big book to slide into the key box. And so, every year we do this, everything's usually cool. I mean, prices are going up. Who knows what I can afford this year? Let's be real. But we're going to probably go through and highlight a few of our targets, whether they're in our price range or, it's a little flexible, that kind of con impulse, So, Joe, what are you kind of looking for this year? I know you've got a wide array of books you'd like, but what if you had to hammer it down to 3, what do you think you're going to come across?
Okay, so very tough, because like you said, it's hard to know what to anticipate for like prices and stuff and what's going to be available. But I guess my three going into it, thinking like I'm going to spend anywhere between 300 to 600 and maybe bring some comic books for trade. I would like a first Guy Gardner. After
Lit.
reading all that Green Lantern stuff, I think having a crispy copy of that would be nice because I don't like investing in low grade keys, even if they are big books. I want something that I know I'll never have to trade in and get a better copy later. So, Green Lantern issue 59 is on my radar. Another book on my radar is Flash 110, first Wally West, first Weather Wizard. We've already brought that up on the podcast. You're more of a Flash guy than I am, but it is a very iconic book, and I would love to have that in my Flash run as far as keys go. And then lastly, I was looking at my key box the other day, and it's mostly DC keys. It's like 75% DC, 25% Marvel. So I wouldn't mind adding to the Marvel side of things. So I know a lot of the first appearances of his original cast of villains, like within the first 10 issues, are probably going to be out of my price range. So I wouldn't mind a first Gwen Stacy, Amazing Spider-Man 31. So I'll be looking for one of those too. I believe it's the first Harry Osborn too. That would be pretty cool to add to my key box. How about yourself, Burger?
So that's kind of tough because I've been picking up most of the books that I wanted on my list this year. Honestly, I've been kind of foot on the gas type deal. But everything I've been looking for in the past has just shot up too much. Old targets, these are kind of honorable mentions, like Tomb of Dracula 10, Marvel Spotlight 5. All the Bronze Age Marvel kind of horror supernatural books I like. Those are all like a grand and low grade now, and Burger can't cut that. So number 1, Fighting 540, first appearance of the Peacemaker Charlton book. Could have bought one, back when we started the podcast with a bunch of other Charlton books. Would have been, I don't know, $150, maybe less. Would have been lit. But I waited. We reviewed Suicide Squad. I'm sure you heard it. If you haven't, you can go back and listen to that if you'd like. Big fan of John Cena in general. That ties into my roots as a child wrestling enthusiast, or wrestling enthusiast as a child, rather. And then the first one sounds a bit suspect. Like, let me edit that out. I'm just kidding. But,
A little Freudian slip.
Weird. But long story short, John Cena, Peacemaker, seems like anti-hero Superman with no powers in a way. Like, he's still very much truth, justice, and the American way, but in like also I'm like the Punisher type deal. So, I just fucks with it. I thought it'd be a cool book. It fits the price range. God willing, there's one there. Number 2, Captain Marvel Adventures number 8. Last Comic-Con, there wasn't too many Golden Age books, at least as far as the year before, but I really want to get a Captain Marvel Adventures 8. It's the first appearance of Ibok, whatever. He's pretty much like a Shazam, except he's like an old guy who turns into a buff hairy brute. He's one of the bigger Shazam like sub villains in the like Monster Society of Evil and whatnot. I've been picking up a bunch of the rest of the villains. I mean, I'm not going to get a Marvel Family 1 or a Wiz Comics 2 to get Savannah or Black Adam anytime soon, so I'd at least like to wrap it up with him. And lastly, third, I don't even have a good answer for you anymore, bro. Let's go with, maybe, if we're going to go just smaller, Teen Titans Go 23. I've been looking at those a lot. Red X, kind of harkening back to my childhood of, watching Teen Titans on Cartoon Network. Like I mentioned before, like that was a big kind of, I guess hidden influence on me liking comics, because I didn't like them until pretty much college, but I loved that show as a kid. And Slade was there. Deathstroke's one of my favorite characters. And when Robin became the Red X, it was such a cool costume. He was a bit more rough around the edges. He wasn't a goody two shoes, and he was there to whoop ass. It's just a cool design. Plus, they're using him again in Future State, whatever the hell you want to call the state of DC as it is right now. They're trying to reintegrate Red X, so I feel like there could be some pop with that, with all the Bat movies and stuff like that, all the Batman and Teen Titans adjacent stuff. I feel like it'd be a cool book to pick up, since all the Silver Age stuff and Bronze Age stuff I want's $1,000 a book now. We gotta set our sights somewhere.
No, for sure. I guess I didn't really think about it. I would love a first Silver Age appearance of Black Adam. That would be pretty cool. And then just thinking out loud, an Animal Man would be pretty cool because I've been a fan of that character for a very long time. But we'll let you know how Motor City went in our next episode. We even bought t-shirts. We made some t-shirts, so we'll be wearing them at the event. I paid for a picture with Michael Rosenbaum, my favorite adaptation of Lex Luthor ever. I already got a picture of Tom Welling, who played Clark Kent. I already got a picture with him. I don't need a second one, so I'll be there to round that out. So I'm pretty excited about that. Burger, you want to tell us what we're going to do next week?
Next time, bro, we're doing another special guest episode. We know y'all love them, and we like having guests on here. Kind of break up the routine a little bit, shoot the shit with a friend, family, whatever, a comic book junkie, all the same. And we're gonna have Big Bad Wanos, the Mad Titan, come back on. Juan's gonna come back for a special guest appearance. We're even gonna do a little book review this time. We're not just chopping it up Joe Rogan style. We're gonna get into Batman Hush, another classic story, which hands up, I've only seen the adaptation on the animated movie. I haven't read the book yet, so I'm pretty eager to see what this is all about. I've heard great things, obviously.
As much of a junkie as I am, I don't know that I've seen the animated adaptation or read the book, so I'm pretty excited for that myself. And that being said, we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, and you know where to catch us on social media: Instagram at CBJ Pod, Facebook at CBJ Podcast. Tell a friend, tell a family, neighbor, mailman, whoever. Spread the word. Comic Book Junkies is good for you. Leave a rating, review, whatever. And you know what? We appreciate you. Keep on listening, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, guys.
Later.